Megan, have you participated in any of the Queen's stuff? Just got to throw it out there since you're in the UK.
No, I'm staying.
Staying put.
Yeah, we got the funeral on Monday, but I'm staying at home. It's too busy in London.
Too busy, yeah.
Literally, the queue to go and see the Queen at Westminster Abbey, which is like the church the Queen's laid at the moment. 2.6 miles, 24-hour
I've been
wait.
watching it live, and I just wondered if you went into that chaos, because it is chaotic.
No, me and Mum is hoping in October, because I've got half term in October, somewhere like middle at the end of October. Me and Mum's hoping go to London and we go into Westminster and show respects then. Even though the Queen's not there, but we're going into there just to show respects, and then we're going to Chinatown. So that's what we go do in October. It's too hectic.
That sounds like a damn good way to celebrate the
We've got bank holiday, so we're quite happy. We've got 3-day weekend off. So.
Well, we actually, Canada named it a federal holiday as well, because we're technically under her.
Oh yeah, because you're the Commonwealth, aren't you?
So it's a holiday here as well. Monday, 3 days,
yeah.
I'm like, party 3 days, even though we're sad, but I'm like, yeah, 3 days off.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hello and welcome to Table for Five with no reservations. Take a seat at the table for a fresh, sweet, salty, tart, and pleasantly bitter conversation.
I want to thank everyone for taking a seat at the table. Today, we are working on our Visions of the Future series, and we have Megan from One Blog at a Time in for an interview today. Tonight, I have Jen Dunn.
Hey, everyone.
Jamie.
Hello.
Kimmy. Hi. Habs.
Hello.
I'm Rachel, and we have Megan this evening.
Hello.
Megan, if you want to take a moment to introduce yourself and tell our listeners where they can find you and your page, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I am Megan. I am from England, from Kent, and I am 22 years old, and I have Asperger's, which is a form of autism. And my blog is on Facebook, called One Blog at a Time. And I also have Instagram as well, which is One Blog at a Time.
That's so great. Megan has taken the opportunity to interview many of us on her page. And it's just been so fun to watch you create content, but also, Megan, you share with just this incredible lens. I was saying before we started recording that I feel like you're so self-aware, and it's inspiring to me to see someone who claims their strengths and their struggles and conquers the things and gets the resources and finds the people as you have. I just think it's been awesome to know you. So I thank you for your page. And if you don't follow her, you should. Megan, if you want to get started by telling us a little bit more about your school experience. I know that you finished at a SEND school and you had kind of a mainstream experience before that.
So when I was 5 years old, I went to a mainstream primary school, and I was in year R. There was like 30 children really in primary schools in the UK, and I had speech and language disorder, so like difficulty. That's when I got my first diagnosis, when I was a toddler. So when I was in primary, I had speech and language interventions, and I struggled quite a lot with making friends. So my speaking was very fast. No one could understand me, nor was the teachers. I was stimming quite a lot as well when I was around about that age, when I was at primary. And then when I was in year 2, I changed from a second primary school, and I was there from year 2, which was 6 to 7 years old. And I was there until year 6, which is 10 to 11-year-old. And I really didn't have a lot of help, apart from little interventions with maths and English. But again, no one really understood that what autism was, because by then it wasn't really a big thing as it is now, because there were only like 2 children in my class that has autism, and obviously they thought my mum was lying, let's say. So when I was year 4, so I was like 9, 8 years old, we were trying to get a statement, which is like a piece of paper that says what diagnosis I got from the council, because you've got to go through the council first before you get a diagnosis in the UK. And they said, no, Megan's got a hearing difficulty. So when I was 10 years old, I had to go through an operation, which is anoising in, grommets out. So it falls with the nose and the ears. So I had that done, and it didn't really do anything apart from no block ears when I'm unwell, which is great because I always have block ears. So by the time when I was in secondary school, which was mainstream, so I was in year 7, so that is 11 to 12-year-old, until I was year 8, which was 12 to 13-year-old, I had quite a lot of struggles with like friendships, changes. I didn't like people not followed by the rules. And, you know, the teachers did try and understand me, but I had one friend who had to translate what I was saying towards the adults. So if the adult can understand me for some reason, whether I spoke extremely fast, my friend had to come with me and say, oh, Megan said this, and basically translating what I was saying. So in a way, it was quite embarrassing for me, because obviously I want to be heard, but they couldn't really understand, because again, you know, they don't really train a lot in special needs, because again, it's mainstream, it's like 30 children, and they haven't really had the time to get to know each individual child. So when I was 13 in year 8, I then got diagnosed as having autism, which is Asperger's at the time. But when I was in year 7, year 8, I had meetings, like so many meetings with this person from a different council to get me that diagnosis, whether it's looking through a picture book and then point out, you know, red car, blue car, you know, things like that, and how to tell a story. And I have to show them how I walk downstairs, because for me, I walk 1 foot at a time, like together. But normally, if I to walk 1 foot sometimes go downstairs, so I had struggled with that when I was in mainstream. And then finally got my diagnosis, and then I went from mainstream to a special needs school from the age of 13, which was near 9, because I was just starting year 9, all the way till 19-year-old, which is year 14 in sixth form. And then I left.
Able to talk with you and your mom one day, and you know, you explained so clearly that your mom, I feel like she knew at age 3, Megan.
She knew since I was 2, and my mum's explained, because obviously I asked her about the education side, because my mum works in education, and she explained that when I was 2 years old, my mum knew I have autism. Like, she knew it, because obviously there were signs, but it was this person had to come in. It's like the 2-year check. I can't remember the person's name. Like, you know what?
Early interventionist or something.
Yeah, so she was like from the NHS, you know, like just checking the development of the child. And my mum said, oh, I think Megan have autism. And she's like, no, she's got speech and language delay, so we have to go through the speech and language team. And then they say, yep, we have to get her as a delay. We've got to make it worse to get me the help that I needed. And then obviously when it's a statement, when I was in year 8, we have to go through the speech and language team, let them write down the papers. Then we had to go to a doctor, and then they have to write down, okay, well, Megan does struggle with eye contact, explaining what hurts and the pain. So we had to go through all of this to get to where I was to get this statement. It is so hard, because nowadays, now it takes about 5 years, even 2 years now, to get a diagnosis from the NHS, because the wait line is extremely long.
Is that your only option there, is through the NHS to get a diagnosis, or can you pay privately for a diagnosis?
You could do it privately, but it costs a lot of money, very lot of money to do it privately. And the thing is as well, because all the system all changed now, I think, and it's like Asperger's not really a thing anymore. So you've got high functioning autism, and then you've got the low functioning autism. So there's like levels. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what we kind of have here now in some places. That's all. And for people listening, the NHS is their healthcare system out there. If you don't know, they have.
It's the national healthcare system. So for us, we go through them. Really, we don't get. We do have insurance to pay for the NHS, but obviously we get it from them company. It's very hard to explain about the NHS system.
Ours is so don't worry.
Matter what the system is, there's going to be like an oversaturation, a bigger need, and a big wait list. It seems, you know, one of your questions, Megan, on your interviews with so many pages over the past summer was to talk about the diagnostic process. And it doesn't matter if you're in the UK or Texas or Minnesota or wherever in the middle. There's delay, and then there's access, and then there's the right fit, you know? And one of the things that I think is so great about your story is how you've been able to advocate for yourself and find what you need in sort of the transition to adulthood. And by that, I obviously mean like adult services, and you're done with school and then you're on to school, and what, how that has gone for your family. I just credit you and your mom for forging this path. And I'm excited to have the people hear about it.
It wasn't actually that easy, because I remember when I was 18, I went through a mental health crisis, and we've got a mental health system in the UK, which is an adult mental health, because when you were a child, you can get from CAMS, which is like a children and adolescents mental health system. But then now, as an adult, you go to an adult mental health system. And it took me like 2 years for me to get help from the mental health people. And the one thing that really frustrated me the most was I was in my crisis point. Obviously, I'm fine now. I'm all better, and I'm happy as ever. But at that point, I was 18. I went to a psychiatrist, and he said that we do not support people who have autism. We don't know how to support people who is adults on the autism spectrum. We don't support people like them. And I said to him, my mental health isn't always about autism. Yeah, fine, I do have anxiety, which can relate to autism. But the depression side of it is because I'm moving schools. I had a lot of things going on in the background. I need help. And it took me 2 years for me to finally got that help with the mental health system. I have to literally go to A&E about A&Es from NHS. I had to go to A&E about 3 to 4 or 5 times because I was really hurting myself, and then literally have to go worse to get that help. And that shouldn't really happen at all. And I got discharged December 2021 because I had my sessions, and I'm not going back there ever again because they wasn't really helpful. They diagnosed me as emotionally stability personality disorder because of my emotions. But I said to him, I don't have that because my emotions is part of my autism. I will struggle with my emotions. And,
and then compound everything with your mental health. I feel like in so many ways, and this is not fair and it's not quite right, but so many ways during all these battles, whether it's for yourself, for your children, you earn these stripes, right? Like of how to advocate, how to stand up for the fact that that's not right. You can't just say, we don't help those people. You jerk. Like, I'll take that doctor's number. Yes, I would. Yes, I would.
I said that we're not autism service, but we're like, yeah, but you can still support people who's got mental health. Like, it could be anyone. It could be an adult who hasn't got autism and that needs some help. Are you going to turn that person away, or are you going to turn that child away because this child have autism and you don't have the training for it? Are you going to turn that person away? And it shouldn't really be like that. Not just because of people who have got autism, for everybody, really.
Yeah. Well, I think to go through so much, obviously your ability to be able to say like, no, I have this, please help me. I think probably takes some strength to be able to get into the program that you're in now, because we were all following your page as you were navigating. I'm probably going to say this wrong, but you were at one point navigating this English test, and you were cramming and you were trying and you were preparing and you were just prepping both to be calm and to have the info and to do the damn thing. And then to navigate the hallway and the teachers and the place to do it. And the way that you sort of brought us through that as your readers was really inspiring. I feel like I can only imagine life through the lens of my daughter, but hearing you discuss life in this world through your heart and the way that you share has just been awesome. Now, after conquering so much though, can you tell us a bit about the program that you're in now?
So as an adult, it took I have to say my same school helped me and my mum, and the autism team, which we have in the UK for adults and for children. There's like sort of services that can help you to get certain help, things like that when you go into adulthood. So when I was 18, I find moving on from school very difficult. So when I hit 19, the school helped my mum to get me some more help. So that is a support worker. So we contacted the autism team, which we have in the UK for adults, and then I got support worker. So every single Saturday, so like today at 9 to 12 p.m, I have my support worker for 3 hours, whether that is going to my local town, going shoe shopping, go on the train, go on the bus, for them 3 hours to get me at the house, so I can't keep relying on my mum, because as a 22-year-old, I really should be able to do things independently, but because of my struggles and my anxiety, I need that extra support to do it that way without having my mum. So by the time I hit, let's say 25, hopefully I can go on the train on my own without having support, or I don't have to keep relying on my support worker because I can go to shops on my own. So that is sort of targets that I can come up to for now. It's like now I'm doing apprenticeship. So at the moment, I am trying to get funding to get some more help for my English and maths, because I have a EHCP. I can get like the money to support me, but again, because as an adult, I have to wait for them to transfer the funding to a panel so they can decide whether or not I can get the help. So now I have to wait until next week to find out whether or not I get help for the people for my EHCP. So it took me like 7 weeks. So again, there's a barrier now because whether or not I'm going to get that help or not.
Yeah, there's so many hurdles in this that just slow the process. And it's so hard. You feel like your path deserves gates to fly open, but instead you stand at the door for, it's just hard. I'm proud that you've been able to achieve and then ask for. And hopefully, girl, this week we get more.
I put it on my blog that however or not I get the funding to help me with my maths and English for my HCP. So you will see something hopefully this week. That's good news or bad news.
Yeah. I think it's so cool that you've entered your apprenticeship and that you're working with young children, correct?
Yes, I'm working with 2 to 4 year olds.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your day is like right now and some of the tools maybe? Because girl, I've seen your planner.
It's very hectic. So I have 2 half days because I have to learn. So I had to work at home. So I had like assignments. So whether that is like health and safety, whether that is safeguarding, send support, things like that really. Literally, I just have 2 half days, go home, do my maths with my tutor, and then do my work I need to do. So that's for 2 days. So that's like Mondays and Tuesdays. So I'm in work, afternoon I go home and do the rest of the work at home. And Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, I just do a lot of things with the children. So whether that is do some arts and crafts, whether it's going outside, support them, things like that really. It has been quite hectic a little bit because obviously we've got some new children and try and get to understand where they need help with and things like that. So at the moment it's going really, really well. I start my apprenticeship next year in May time. That's when I finish because that's the way it goes. And then after that, I'm not sure whether I'm doing level 3 or whether I'm going to try and apply to work in a special needs school as a teacher assistant if I pass in maths and English.
Well, we can see several examples of your devotion to your job. I think it's cool that you're doing, is it once a day, a sign, you're sharing a new sign? So
every single Tuesday and Friday I got a 1-day Makaton sign. So there's one in America because you've got to remember the signs that I'm doing are the British signs, so ones in America can be very different. And in September and the end of September I'm doing level 3, so this is the sort of thing that I'm doing to get into level 3, and then I'm doing level 4 and hopefully being a Makaton tutor. So Makaton is communication and talking. So you like simplifying the language to a child who's got SEND needs or who are non-verbal. Could be someone who's got dyslexia or find like communication a bit difficult, and you can actually just do little signs. Sometimes I use it at work if I need to with a child. I use it at home with my mum. So if I go into a crowded space, let's say up to London, which is quite busy in London is, I do some signs in London, say, look, mum, I want to go home, or can you help? I'm worried, sort of thing. So that sort of thing that I do as well. And it's part of skill, really. It's part of a different language.
Yeah. I did have a question. I just wanted to go back real quick about, if you're okay talking about the mental health piece, because I think it's important for people who go seek help and then don't necessarily find the assistance. Like when you left this place where they were giving you treatment, what did you find was the most helpful for you, since they didn't really provide the support?
Well, the thing was, I went to charity first. So I went to Mind, which is a mental health charity in the UK. So I went from them. And then I went from Young Minds, which is another charity. So I had two charities, and they're both CBT therapy. The mind one I didn't like because the person didn't really understand me. So I'm like, no, I'm not going back there ever again. Young Mind, they did help me. I had CBT therapy, but I have to sign a note saying that I wouldn't commit, trigger warning, suicide. So I was like, okay, so I've done the note. December hit, which is going to be 3 years that the day that I did it. So unfortunately, I did it, and this is me, okay, well, Megan, because you've done it, we really cannot help you. So we need to get you transferred to you from the NHS and let them really help you because you really need serious help now. So they stopped CBT therapy at that time. And then they wrote a note saying to the NHS, Megan really needs some help, transfer her to these people. Then I went to them people, and then that's when it took me like 2 years. The school also helped as well. They did loads of referrals. So did a doctor. I've been turned away by the disability nurse, who's a community nurse that comes into my house, check, like, talk to me sort of thing. That didn't happen whatsoever. So I didn't have that help. I had help with early help, which is like early interventions. So if things happen at home, then I can talk to them and they help me with how to cope with certain things. So I had that done as well. That was fine. They still helped me for a couple of weeks. But the mental health services, I had a lot of talks about how I was feeling. I did like a mood journal I did. And then I stopped in 2021 when it was Christmas. And then it did help in a way because I just got someone to talk to. And then I actually just did that way, really, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, it's the CBT is what you're talking about. CBT.
Yeah,
cognitive behavior therapy. For any of our listeners, it's used in like a behavior approach, changing behaviors, which is good for a lot of people, but might not be the best approach for someone who's autistic because the brain works differently in that sense. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, I did have quite a few help with school because I had a one-to-one support with a key worker. She was a brilliant lady. She saved my life completely many times, and she's a speech language therapist as well, and she's bloody brilliant, she is. And literally I still keep a contact to her to this very day because she literally saved my life so many times, and without her I wouldn't be where I am now today. And that's why I always said to prayers, like, thank you so much, to this woman. But yeah, with her as well, we were doing like lots of like talking therapy. I had art therapy at school, so I had loads of other things as well in place in school, but alongside with the NHS helped me a little bit. But again, because of my state of mind and my anxiety and my depression at that time, they wanted me to take medication. Medication works for everybody. It can work with some people, it can't work with doesn't work with other people. For me, because my anxiety was so high, I wouldn't take the medication. I took it once and I had a panic attack, and then the school was like, Megan, you really need to try again. So I tried it again, never panic attack. I said, I can't do it. So I didn't take any sort of medication. I kind of did it just without this sort of medication. But again, if you need medication, just speak to a doctor and they will kind of advise you. But sometimes
you are bang on, Megan. It does not work for everyone. You're right.
You can try so many different things, whether it's talking therapy works for you, that's really good. If medication doesn't work for you, that's also fine. But there's other alternative around to get some help. But for me, medication is just anxiety related now. And even my teacher at the time, she was joking me, saying to me, Megan, you took medication, see, you haven't grown horns. I was like, that's not a good joke, because obviously I got now about growing horns.
Now you're checking daily what's happening.
You're thinking about these horns.
She was doing it as a joke. She wasn't doing it meanly. She was just like trying to make me happy and being jokey sort of thing.
Oh, I think that's a great, and I think we all talk often about how much like one individual provider can make such a big difference for our family, for our kids. It sounds like you had an amazing person in your life, which thank goodness for that. And we're always so lucky to find those people that just like our kids can connect to and makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's like when I came back to that school to do my last English exam that I took in June time, I went to her when I finished. I said to her, this teacher, remember that you told me not to self-harm during summer? I kept that promise. It's nearly been 3 years since I've been clean from self-harm. And she was absolutely in tears because I kept that promise from July the 25th, 2019. I kept that promise all the way through till till 3 years now. So
That's amazing. I love it.
That's all for Clem. So I
Wonderful,
couldn't
Megan.
speak, but I want you to know we're damn proud of you, Megan.
yeah.
If you could hug that girl for me, like you let your mom hug you for me, I just want you to know one of those is coming.
Yeah, so that's why, you know, I never break that promise, because she'd just done so much. If I break that promise, I wouldn't forgive myself, to be honest.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Wonderful.
Well, if you have any advice for us, I know that you ask this of your interviews. And if you don't, I mean, don't worry. But do you have any advice for parents or for our listeners?
I think personally, for me, as I'm only 22 and I'm still learning as I go because I'm still young, but personally for me, it's like, if services say that, oh, sorry, we can't help you, just keep like fighting for it, and you know, don't give up, because there will be other services out there that can provide you that support or that help. You know, just keep fighting for the services. And also, well, you know your child, they can advise you to do things, but again, you know your child best, as what I said to everybody. And the thing is, well, like, there will be barriers in the way, and all you can do is just be determined and just keep going through. And there will be other sort of barriers as well, but again, you will get there. It just going to take a lot of time, and you've got to be a little bit patient, and you've got to like keep like prodding them all the time. And that's what I have to do to get that funding. It took me 7 weeks to finally get to the point when they wrote in a letter saying, oh, we've got her funding, we're going to put it over to panel. It took us 7 weeks, and we kept ringing them up saying, what is going to happen, what's happening. So just keep ringing them, keep pestering them, and the more we pester them, the more they're gonna, you know, hurry the process up.
I have a question. It's a little bit off topic, but being an autistic adult, there's a bunch of us on the panel here that have daughters and sons, so it's the same. Can you just explain a little tiny bit what it feels like for you to be overwhelmed in public? I think for us to have the perspective from you is just a wealth of knowledge for how does it feel? Because my daughter can't tell me what it feels like.
So for me, let's say in some holidays I went to London, and that is the most hectic part of England that you can ever go to. So for me, it's more like I am trapped. I can't really get out anywhere. Like, people keep coming into me, keep pushing me, shoving me, and I literally have to wear my weighted vest wherever I go into crowded places, because having something weighted on me, it really calms me down. And I just, you know, without this, I'll get so overwhelmed, and it's just like I can't get out the situation because there's so many people around me. I've got to hold in my stem. I've got to hold in my meltdown, because I don't want people to stare at me. Because again, like, if you are a 7, 6, 5-year-old, they think it's cute, you know, oh, she's only like young, you know, we understand. But when you're an adult, they look at you thinking, why is she acting like this? She needs to grow up. Or to a parent saying, oh, why are you not what's someone looking for? Like,
controlling your child.
Yeah, like, that's it. Controlling your adult child. You know, so for me, as being in their kind of places, I try my hardest to go there early, so it won't be a lot of people around. But when it gets busier, I have to go home, because I had enough. I get shutdown mode. 2, I just get really moany, say, look, mum, I really want to go home now, I had enough. And 3, it's just being at home, I can literally just be myself. Like, I can be in my room and literally just let anything else out, whether it's just listening to music, sing, dance, literally just be in my room for a couple of hours and literally just calm down from the day and just literally be on my own. And then next day I'll be fine. So for being crowded places, we've got to like time what sort of time you go to places, and you've got to like make sure you have like techniques, whether like weighted vest, which I got, or ear defenders, or fiddle toy, which I always wear on my hand when I go out, or, you know, having a trusted adult with you or a trusted friend with you as well, so they understand, because that also help the situation. And also as well, like, make sure if the child's worried about the toilets, like for myself, I always said, mum, will there be toilets there? Make sure they've got toilets there, and, you know, make sure they've got like a room they can go to, whether it's a quiet shop. Okay, well, I'm just going to go to a quiet shop, let's get you calm down a little bit, let's look around, get you distracted, let's get you back outside, let's go home, you know, things like that. That's what I do with my mum when I get overwhelmed.
It's nice to hear it, you know, first person.
But again, you know your child, so your child may say, actually, yeah, I'll be fine, I can just go home and things like that. But it's really
we always do the early stuff before people are there.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's true.
So today,
That's true.
because obviously today it was quite busy in town because the shops would be closed on Monday, so everyone was all out, you know, getting the foods, getting clothes, you know, things like that. And I was like, okay, it's getting a bit busier now. I need to go to Sainsbury's, so it's like a local supermarket. Even that was really busy, so I've got to get everything I needed and go out.
Yeah, and with my daughter, it's interesting because those things don't really bother her in the same way, but it's like very random. Like sometimes she'll get overwhelmed and other times she won't get overwhelmed at all. So it's hard to like figure out what part of it things do that, but crowds in general don't seem to bother her. Like I don't know if she just has learned to be able to tune them out or what, but it's like, yeah, it's just inconsistent. So sometimes like it's always like a gamble, like, okay, we're gonna do this and maybe it will go well, maybe it won't. And then we just hope it goes well, which I mean, most of the time it does, but.
Yeah. It's like going into a restaurant or going to a theatre, because me and Mum went to see The Waitress and Lion King doing some holidays, and I booked the end seats, so they're quite near, like not near to people, but they're quite at the end, so I can go to the toilets if I need to or wherever. And by sitting at the end, for me, I feel more safe because I'm next to my mum. I'm not next to a person who I don't know. And same with a restaurant, I always go at the far back where it's like I don't have like loads of other people around me, so I feel like I can breathe. That makes sense.
That's how I feel myself.
With like my daughter Nora, she doesn't like crowded places or lots of noise or lots of people. My son can handle that stuff, but then he's overstimulated once we get home, like immediately. It's like he can tolerate it while we're there, but then the whole rest of the afternoon is like you got to decompress for several hours after being in all that noise and energy. But my daughter's sound sensitive, so she for sure does not like to be crowded or in lots of noise or places like that at all.
That's how my son is. But I mean, like, and he'll wear headphones, earmuffs and stuff, but it takes, wherever we go, it takes him about, especially in big crowded areas, it takes about 45 minutes, an hour for him to warm up, and then he does okay. And then it's after, but it's like, is it worth it to him? So like if we go to like an amusement park where he loves rides and stuff like that, then he'll do it. But if it's like a crowd for like the sake of like, if we had to go to an appointment here at like the DMV is where you get like your car license and stuff, like there's no way. He's like, this isn't worth it for me to like go through the overstimulation. He's like, if there's going to be candy, then maybe I can go through it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's definitely that downfall, and he has to like warm up to whatever environment he's in. And like, you can physically watch him kind of like relax, but it's like that first hour and a half, it's like someone's like squeezing him almost, like it's just too much.
Yeah, even walking through unfamiliar doors is like sometimes just like too much.
When I'm at work, I might say, okay, well, Megan, okay, so it's now like, let's say it's 10 o'clock, for example, in the morning. Okay, Megan, so you've got another 5 more hours, then you go home. So it's kind of like, my brain is like, okay, Megan, you've got 5 hours, you've got 4 hours. So I kind of know how many hours I've got left to go home. And to be honest with you, I live quite near where I work. So it's like 5 or 10 minutes walk and then 10 minutes back. So for me, it's quite happy. I'm quite glad that I live quite near it. So if I have an anxiety attack, I can say, look, can I go home? Or if I'm not feeling very well, can I go home? So it's not really that far. But it's like when I go to like, let's say a theatre, so I have to look at what times it start and finish. So my head's like, okay, so you've got another 3 minutes and you've got interval. Okay, go to the toilet, and then after that, you've got another 3 hours to interval to the play finish. Okay, I can go straight home. So I kind of have to like time it in my head how many hours and minutes I got left. Certain activities or work, or whether it's even to a McDonald's or even at a restaurant, I can say to myself, oh, I've got 50 minutes, I've just got to eat, I can go to the toilet if I need to, the toilet's right over there, I don't need to worry about it, and then go home. So that's how I do it in my brain. I have to like say to myself, okay, I've got a couple more hours left, sort of thing.
It's such a good tool. And I think that carries across so many different places to apply it. It's time, it's tasks, it's accomplishing little parts of a big thing,
I heard an autistic adult recently explain sound when she was in a crowded restaurant, and she was talking about the perception of sound and how it actually feels like pain sometimes, the way that her body perceives it, like the way that we take in sound can feel like pain to someone who is autistic because it's that intense and that strong. And it really helped me understand like my daughter's perception of sound a lot more, because it's probably actually physically painful to her to have such a like large amount of sound coming in at one time. Very fascinating stuff.
In theatre and a musical, if it's music, I'm fine because I love music and music helps me to calm me down anyway. But when it's like talking, like when people are talking like loudly, I get anxiety rush. So it's like when I'm in the theatre, I'm completely fine because I know there's music. I can concentrate on the music, on the lyrics, and just literally just drum away with my thumbs quite happily. But then when I'm like going out to a supermarket with a lot of noise, I get anxiety. I said to Mum, no, I really want to go home now. And I keep saying like, "How are you? How are you?" And that's a sign say, "Okay, Megan needs to go home now," sort of thing.
Well, it's the predictability too, like at a musical, it's like it's what's kind of going on. And then and I think that is true for Alyssa too. Like when she's in a crowd and it's predictable, like an amusement park, like people are pretty much, even though it's busy and loud, like they're walking around, everyone's kind of doing the same thing. But like if we were somewhere really crowded where it wasn't predictable, she wouldn't like that. And people were bumping into you and there was no clear, like, say you were just at like a music festival or something, like where people were just like all over the place and like not always doing the same thing. She would not like that because she wouldn't understand like the point of what was happening. Kind of like Jesse in a way, but like different, because it's more motivating when there's something that's fun for them. So obviously if there's not an incentive for them, then they don't want to work as hard to not get overwhelmed, I guess. But I noticed that with her too. It's like when it's unpredictable, that's when she gets more overwhelmed.
Like all the people in our lives who are autistic react differently to things and how things affect them differently. And just this whole conversation has really like hounded in on like what this series, we're talking a lot about autistic adults and the services and the lack thereof, and just how individualistic and like and important it's to remember that everyone's an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And that like different things for you. And I think that's an overall a problem with autism, but especially with adults, is like people like want one answer. Your needs are going to be different than Kim's adult daughter's needs. My son's needs are going to be different. And it's like, we really need people to look at the individual and treat the individual. And like, how you're talking about, like, they want to even treat your mental health because you're autistic. Like, that's insane to me, because you're still a human being with mental health needs. So I just think it's such a good conversation to have.
Because I'm part on a autism panel, which is a charity called Ambition for Autism, which we have in the UK, and I'm part of the panel. I've done a few sort of topics, whether that is changing the EHCP, whether it was talking to the minister on YouTube. I did a YouTube thing I did for them for talking to the minister about the education system that it needs to change for those who have learning difficulties, whether that's autism, dyslexia, speech language, things like that. And I just done one about EHCP and about changing the format, because it really needs to change, because again, not everyone is really following the EHCP, which we have in the UK, which is called Education Health Care Plan. So not everyone is really following the child's or adult needs. For me, I haven't had an EHCP review since 2019, and that's, fine, we got COVID, but again, I need a review because I still got it until I'm 25. So again, I've got to wait for my turn to get a review, whether that's going to be, to change some of the things for my EHCP that I had in 2019, because things can change. Like, I may not need certain things I need when I was 19 because I was at school. So that sort of things that I'm be doing at the moment in behind the scenes of my page.
Yeah, and to Jamie's point, it's like when we ask you questions, you're not saying like, oh, all autistic people feel like this in a crowd. You're saying, this is my perspective, this is how I feel, this is how it affects me. And I think that's like really important, because it's very helpful to us parents to have insight. It doesn't mean that every child is going to act that way or feel that way, but it does give us that insight, but without, making the generalization that like, okay, this is how I feel, so this is how all these other people must feel too. And I do the same thing. I'm like, oh, this is how it is for my child, as much as I can tell, because obviously she's nonverbal and can't tell me everything. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be that way for somebody else's child. And I think a lot, like Jamie was just saying, with autism is hard because there's so many generalizations made, and it doesn't even matter like on what end you're talking about. It happens all through it. So we really do appreciate that insight, because it is very helpful.
I always want to thank advocates like you who are autistic individuals, because you are who we turn to. You are like the peek into what's going on in our children's minds. And like me and Kim, you're just saying, like, obviously our kids aren't going to be exactly like you, and you're not going to be exactly the next person standing next to you, but it does kind of give us an idea. and hearing your story definitely helps me dictate the way I raise my kid, because I don't know what's going on in his head, and I don't know what's going to help him, but at least I can get an idea by listening to as many autistic adults as I can.
Absolutely. It's so helpful.
Because when I did interviews with parents, because I know a lot of people who are adult autism like to hear from autistic adults because they don't really want to hear parents. But on the other hand, for me, I like to hear from parents because, again, you guys have to go through fighting for services. You have to go through 2-year checks when they 2-year-old or 3-year-old. You have to go through so many interventions, whether that is speech and language, ABA, OT, all these sort of interventions. So for me, I like to hear more about the parents' experience, because without the parents, we wouldn't be where we are today. Like, I wouldn't be able to speak slow without my mum have to get help from a speech and language team, or I wouldn't be able to go to the local supermarket without my support worker, because my mum got me that help to get me to that place. So without parents, we wouldn't be where we are now. So for me, I want to say thank you to you guys for sharing your experiences, trying to get the services and school education, whether it's health, whether it's going out to places. So without you guys, I bow down to every single one of you, basically.
You are the sweetest, Megan.
My
We
God,
love you.
my
We
mother-
love you. Yeah.
Well, Megan, we want to thank you so much, and we want to thank our listeners for listening. We encourage you to head over to One Blog at a Time and do all the things that she read back, read forward, follow quick. We thank you. Well, we all thank each other in a big, huge hug.
Yeah, thank you so
everyone.
much for letting me be on the interview.
Thank you,
very
Megan.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy your 3-day
Nice
weekend.
chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us at the table for this episode of the Table for 5 No Reservations podcast. Join us next Monday for more, and while you wait, make sure to check out our content on Facebook and Instagram. If you are enjoying the podcast, make sure to subscribe and rate and review us wherever you listen. To contact us, you can email us at tablefor5podcast@gmail.com. We can't wait to sit with you again. See you next time.